All right, welcome to another edition of It's Still Real to Me. It is a bonus episode of It's Still Real to Me, Zaslow Show 2.0. Glad to have you aboard. However you're listening to us, Jonathan Zaslow here. Of course, my pal is Joey Levine, and we're giving you an extra episode this week. Hopefully you listened to yesterday's episode. If you did not, you could totally go back and listen. Did the regular, weekend review in pro wrestling and give you a little bit leading up to AEW Full Gear, and that's why we're here today. All right, we're up early again this morning to give you a Full Gear reaction. I think that's the way we're probably going to go about this, Joey, where when we were trying to figure out how to do the show, we had to settle on a day, and it was tough coming up with a day. And we figured, all right, F it, let's just do Saturday. Okay, we'll do Saturday. We'll do a weekend review. Okay, but how are we going to handle pay-per-views? I think this is probably the way we're going to handle pay-per-views. We're going to do the regular show on Saturday. When the pay-per-view is Saturday night, it's easy enough. We're going to bang out an episode on Sunday. We'll give you an extra episode. So the way it goes down, probably once a month because of WWE's schedule. You're going to get an extra episode. And, whenever AEW does their shows, which essentially is quarterly, we're going to give you an episode there as well.
Yeah, when AEW does we'll give you pay-per-views and also premium live events, whatever you want to call it. Premium live events, whether you call it a pay-per-view, if you're traditional, or if you're new school and you call it a premium live event, then we'll do it after that too.
Now we're going to start with the big story, all right, from last night, which of course was the main event. Overall, did you enjoy last night's show?
Ooh, you're starting off with the hard-hitting questions.
Did you enjoy last night's show?
I'm conflicted about last night's show, but I think overall I enjoyed the show. I'm actually still processing whether or not I enjoyed the show, but overall there was enough good in the show that I think, yes, I enjoyed the show.
I enjoyed the show. I didn't think it was a great pay-per-view. I enjoyed the show. I never don't enjoy the show. I mean, whenever either company puts on a pay-per-view, it's there's nothing to not like overall. You're going to find enough stuff that you like. There's going to be enough stuff that you enjoy. I mean, for me,
well, especially when the show is 7 hours long.
Yeah. Such a huge part, especially when you go to pro wrestling, such a huge part of the show is the crowd involvement. It's one of the things that drew me to AEW. All right. Because I was a holdout with AEW for a long time. All right. I grew up a WWF kid, not an NWA kid, not a WCW kid. I grew up a WWF kid. So I'm always going to be super loyal. And it took me a long time to jump on board with AEW. But one of the things that drew me to AEW was, damn, that crowd is so hot. And I want to be a part of that. And I want to be there, and I want to watch on television and feel the crowd too. The crowd is such a huge part of the enjoyment factor with pro wrestling. And WWE has done a good job. I mean, it happened really over the last year or two where WWE started to scale back the length of their premium live events. AEW is going to, I mean, I know they only do these pay-per-views quarterly, essentially, but they're going to have to find a way to scale back. Joey, including the pre-show last night, there were 13 matches. It's too long.
And in the post event media scrum, Tony Khan said he wants to figure out how to get more people on the shows.
Yeah, it's the crowd is dead. Like, I'm checking on Twitter in the middle of the show. Am I the only one who thinks that the crowd is dead? The crowd was dead by mid-show, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know you've been to a few Manias. I went to Mania for the first time, WrestleMania for the first time in the one right before COVID. The Kofi Mania,
New York,
where Brock opened up and Kofi ended. And look, we got there, we were hot, man. Brock opens the show, but by the end, you're just dead. Yep. You're dead in a 7. Like, it was so long, and that's WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I get it, AEW.
That's quarterly. Also why it's great that they made WrestleMania now 2 nights. Totally the right move.
Yeah, COVID kind of changed things for them, and they got to experiment with things, and they started doing 2 nights, and they've kept the things that worked, obviously got rid of the things that didn't. And I understand where AEW is coming from, that it's quarterly, so they want to make the shows feel big. But man,
we live in this shotgun social media society now. You can't have a 4-hour show and come into the media scrum at the end of the night, talk about how you want to make it longer.
Now, but I will say this. Right. That for sure. Because when I saw that, I was like, what are we talking about, dude? Like, you just had a 7-hour show. Like, or I guess pre-show started at 7. It
So
ended
five
at
hours. It's
5-hour
well,
show, but it felt like
it's too
7.
long.
I mean, and part of it, and we can discuss this, is the booking, or I guess not necessarily the booking, because the booking is the matches, but the way it was stacked, right? I think they did a few of the matches disservices in their placement on the card, and that probably added
Like
to.
what?
I think the first 2 women's matches got completely buried being after the Elite and after Jericho's Ring of Honor match. I just think the crowd was so hot. You bring the Elite back in the second match of the night, and then you have Jade Cargill. It just the crowd was. I mean, they were. How can you not? We'll talk about the Elite. The show is about that crew. The company is different when they're around. The energy in the room is different when that crew is around, and they come back, and then you have a title match right after with the TBS title.
Yeah,
And
you're
then you
gonna
get
have some type of come down match after those guys are out there, and the come
and
down match
then
ended up being the TBS title.
right, and then you follow that up with the 4-way title, the Ring of Honor match, which was awesome. Then you follow that up with Paige's first match back, and
It's
she
interesting.
looked,
Each women's match was a come down match.
Yeah.
And then the third one with Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter, which was my favorite part of the night, was after the TNT title match with Joe, Wardlow, and Hobbs.
Which I didn't love the ending, but I thought was a great match.
Yeah. Yeah. All 3 women's matches were essentially come down matches. I didn't even notice that. You're right. That's interesting. Okay, let's get to the big story. All right, from last night. The big story from last night is obviously the main event. All right. And MJF wins the AEW world title. Top Jew now. Top Jew. AEW's got a Jewish world champion. Kyrie is so mad. Moxley loses to MJF last night. We start out now going into the fight. I thought Moxley was going to win. I did. But overall, I think the MO is you got to find a way. If MJF's going to win, you got to find a way for him to win, but keep him heel. Because he went into that match babyface. And essentially he played the whole match babyface. And you can't have MJF, the MJF era, MJF's title reign. It needs to be as a heel, and it needs to be as the guy that we've seen for the last few years. So to me, going into it, Joey, the key was, okay, he could be a babyface in this match, but if you're going to give him the title, he's got to come out of this match a heel, because the MJF era, the MJF world title reign, it can't come as a babyface.
I agree. And we talked about this yesterday briefly when we were talking about the week, and we were talking about his promo afterwards, of whether we bought this whole gimmick, the shtick, what was going on with him. And we were both kind of like, I don't know if I buy it. And I think I mentioned, I think I mentioned the Firm maybe coming out and doing something, but I mentioned, but I mentioned, like, I feel like something's going to happen here where he's ends up winning, or he ends up still a major heel now. But I'll say this, I still don't think he's a heel. Like, I still think the crowd loved it. I think the crowd, because in the match, the crowd turned on Moxley very quickly.
But MJF's going to rectify that on Wednesday night. The crowd loving it. Like, you get him on the microphone, and the crowd's eating out of the palm of his hands. Like, he's going to rectify that situation himself.
Yeah, but isn't it sort of to the point with MJF, kind of like with Roman, where when you're so good, no matter, as you can try as hard as you want to be a heel, the crowd's just going to cheer for you?
I mean, we'll see. Like, he comes out and, he talks about Brian Pillman's mom should have swallowed, then the crowd's going to boo, I mean, he has a way with them where he's going to say the right things to make them hate him, So I look, it's going to be a testament to how good he is, where the crowd wants to cheer for him. Is he still going to be able to get them to boo him? Like, we're gonna see how good he really is now, right?
Yeah, and I think one way to do that, obviously, doing the mic work, but also, and we'll see where he's at. But you need somebody like Hangman Page. You need somebody that the crowd has been behind from day one, that they just love so much that they will hate MJF for running that guy down, right? So it's not Moxley anymore. Moxley, obviously, now it seems is probably going to take a long break, which he needs, and come back probably full heel. Maybe he'll wear those red sweatpants all the time because that made me hate him. And we'll see what happens with him. But they need somebody to go up against MJF that the crowd loves more than MJF, that they feel a connection to. And maybe, I mean, Hangman would be the obvious choice, I think, at the moment, but he's still on concussion protocol or whatever it is. But somebody that would help.
I mean, I'll tell you,
turn it back.
I'll tell you, Jungle Boy comes off a big win. Crowd's not going to boo Jungle Boy.
If he, Jungle Boy, I don't know if he's there yet. Do you think he's there yet?
Remember, I mean, he fought Kenny Omega for the title. What was it, like a year and a half ago? Like, he's had a world title match. He's been in the picture. Crowd's not going to boo Jungle Boy.
Yeah, I just think Jungle Boy is going to get completely destroyed by MJF in any back and forth situation. I think he still needs a mouthpiece.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're talking about from a microphone standpoint. Gotcha.
Yeah, I just think, like, you know, if you're going to build that as a feud, they're going to have to go toe to toe on the mic. And if he doesn't have like Christian as his mouthpiece, or Christian,
because that's how you bring back the heat on MJF. You know, he's going to talk about Luke Perry being dead. I mean, that's how you do it.
And I actually think they need to lean a little more into him being Jack Perry and start going away a little bit from Jungle Boy. And he actually, in the media scrum, one of the reporters asked him about, you know, having Jack Perry now part of his name and Jungle Boy. And he said he likes that it's organically becoming more Jack Perry, but he doesn't mind having Jungle Boy as his nickname because that's what it's always been, but he likes that it's organically being brought into the storyline. So I think the more they lean into him being a real human and not some guy from the jungle, the more he can become elevated to like a top of the card status. He's going to have to get rid of those stupid sideburns, which I think will look. I
think those are an ode to his father.
I know, but they just look. I mean, is that what it is? And do we know that
Dylan McKay had the sideburns?
I understand that, but have the announcers ever said that? The announcers don't explain shit, so I don't know what the Taz and Tony Schiavone are too busy having their little inside jokes on commentary and not explaining what the hell's going on. Like, tell me that. If they told me that, then I'd be okay with it. But right now, it just looks like he has goofy sideburns. Listen, Zaslow Show 2.0 audience, you're going to understand real quick. The aesthetics are everything to me. I'm going to call these guys out when they look silly. And I think the sideburns look silly.
So can we talk for a second here before we talk about everything that took place in the match? MJF comes down to the ring. He asks the woman sitting on the rail if he can motorboat her boobs. I've never seen anything like that before.
I think I missed that.
You didn't see him do it? When he's walking down to the ring, there was a woman, tall blonde woman, big boobs, kind of sticking out. He says something to her, and he motorboats her. Now, I think we're all assuming that what he said was, can I do it? Can't, like, whatever. He said something to her, and then he totally motorboated her. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that.
I guess I'm going to have to go back and
You got to go back and watch. He motorboated, and it wasn't like, did he do that or did he not? It was in plain view for everyone to see. He motorboated this woman with huge boobs.
I mean, you can't. How do you go back to being a heel after that?
It was unbelievable.
You know, that's the ultimate. That's like the ultimate face move right there.
So,
he asked, and she said yes.
Yeah, that's right. He asked. Oh, I assume she said yes. I hope so. Like you said, the crowd was totally against Moxley, and you know, and like this happened. We talked about this when Saraya and Britt had the first promo back and forth, where I think, you know, Saraya was probably a little bit shook with the crowd's reaction to it. The crowd was totally against Mox, and I think Mox is genuinely okay with it. Like, totally good with it. He was playing into it. I think a lot of performers, I think a lot of wrestlers can get totally thrown off their game if something like that happens. And I think Mox totally leaned into it and was totally cool with it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was planned and they kind of understood like this might happen, but he rolled with it. And he was flicking off the crowd. He was a straight up heel. He played the heel almost within the first 2 minutes of the match.
Yeah, I dug it.
He did a great job for what they needed to do. I thought they both came out of the match looking good, and I think it sets up for him to take some time off and come back as a monster heel. Monster heel.
So what's going to be the explanation on Wednesday from Regal? Like, is the Blackpool Combat Club done now? Moxley's going to go away for a little bit. Regal's obviously not with them. And you had, I mean, look, I mean, that's what they do because they're fighters, but Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli, like, they were going against each other. They were fighting each other in their match, which is what they're supposed to do. So is Blackpool Combat Club just over now?
Yeah, I actually have that in my notes while I was taking notes during the show. Two things: a little pat on the back because as soon as Bryan Danielson and Claudio started going at each other in that match, I looked over at my brother and I said, "Oh, so Regal's going to turn on Moxley tonight, and Blackpool Combat Club's done."
I think it's done.
I was just like, I think it's done, and I have it in my notes like question mark: Are they done? But I mean, they're only the Blackpool Combat Club because of Regal.
Yeah,
so they got to be done.
Yeah, are any of them from Blackpool, if not Regal?
Is Regal even from? I mean, he is.
I mean, at
right?
least I could buy it. Yeah, like I assume he is.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, yeah, I get they got to be done. First of all, it seemed for the last few weeks that they were done. Moxley hasn't been associated with those guys for weeks, like on TV. I haven't seen him do anything.
And Wheeler Yuta is never around.
Right, and they just seem and they've had these things back and forth where Wheeler he kind of went after Bryan Danielson in a backstage interview, and they were arguing with each other. And where's Claudio? And then
all right, so they're done.
They had the segment. Yeah, they had the segment at the end of, I think it was at the end of Dynamite or Rampage, where they were still kind of feuding with Jericho Appreciation Society, and there was a big brawl, and Moxley never even came out. Like, they were all brawling with each other. So I kind of figured it was heading that way for a while.
They're done. I like MJF winning. The show is super interesting now. Wednesday, you have to tune in. You have to see what he's going to say. I'm sure he'll lead off the show. And now you got for a promotion that I think needed a little bit of a kickstart, and a lot of it has to do with the Elite not being around for the last couple months. Now they become really must watch again, right? To see, what direction we're going with MJF as the top guy.
Yeah, where do you put MJF right now in pro wrestling?
I think he's as good a heel as there is. I don't know any other way to put it.
But besides from heel, face, whatever, like if you were just ranking, let's say your top 5, where is he?
Yeah, he's there.
To me, he's 3. Because and the interesting thing about AEW is that as much as I run them down from time to time, and I have issues with their production and their announcers and this and that, I think they still have the second and third best professional wrestlers on the planet right now in Jericho and MJF.
And you're not even mentioning Kenny Omega.
Well, Kenny's been gone for a long time. I mean, as just a professional wrestler and as a character, yes, Kenny's up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just currently the work that they're doing right now.
Right.
I think Roman, I still think Jericho, what he's doing is it may be even underrated, the work he's doing right now. And then MJF.
So let's go right into the 4-way then for the Ring of Honor Championship with Jericho. So Jericho retains. The interesting parts there. You had Danielson and Claudio going at it, which you knew was going to happen because those guys are fighters, all right? But obviously the big story in the middle of the match, Jericho throughout the match is, come help me do this, don't break up this pin, stand back right there. And then eventually Sammy Guevara jumps in, and now you have the moment, and they're trading blows. The biggest moment for me, I almost jumped off the couch. Sammy Guevara gives Jericho, what's the name of his move again? I forget the name of the big move that he does.
I don't remember.
It's kind of like the go to sleep. But
the shooting, are you talking about? Didn't he hit his the thing that he does, like his regular move, or off the top rope?
No, the regular.
I don't know his regular move. I know. He does
and then he followed it with the shooting star, and I thought he was about to win the title in that moment of Jericho. And you know what? And look, the crowd hates him. He's so easy to hate, Sammy Guevara, but the crowd was into him winning in that moment. It was going to be a really cool moment. That was the most fun part of the match for me. But Jericho hanging on to the belt. Anytime Jericho is going to have one of the titles, I think is good stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's so much work still to do with. So the Ring of Honor situation to me is still strange. I get it. Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, so he has just incorporated all these titles into AEW. So now there's like 12 active titles. There's a lot of titles. It's hard to keep track of all of them. I don't think any of the Ring of Honor titles have any relevancy anymore in AEW other than the one that's on Jericho.
Every match last night, but 2 had a title.
Which is, I mean, I guess that's cool, but it's also kind of crazy. But I think this whole Ring of Jericho or whatever he's calling it, his gimmick as the Ocho, him fighting this guy's been wrestling for 30 years and he has a title match on television every week. And it's pretty remarkable. And this whole gimmick where every week he fights a former Ring of Honor champion is very cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I think it lends so much relevancy to having the Ring of Honor title even on the show. And now they already set up his match on Wednesday with another former Ring of Honor champion.
Yeah.
So it was the right move. But I think based on what we saw, it is leading towards Sammy and him breaking up and Sammy winning the title from him eventually.
But Sammy remaining heel. I mean, the crowd hates him.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Nyla Rose and Jade Cargill here. For me, the only thing I need, I'm a big Jade Cargill fan. I don't love all of her matches, but it's understandable because she's still super raw. She's super young. You see someone that looks like her, has that physical ability. You give her a little bit of leeway because you know what she's eventually going to be one day. I mean, she looks like $1 million every time she comes to the ring. It's so obvious she's a big star. I'm a big fan of Jade Cargill. By the way, great interview. I've had her on Zaslow's show before. She's super sweet and an excellent talker. Great interview. Yeah. And she came to the ring. She's Chitara from Thundercats. I don't know. You're a little bit younger than me. Thundercats, my favorite cartoon growing up. She's Chitara from Thundercats. She was a dead ringer. It was a great getup. She looked fantastic last night. For me, the only thing that needed to come out of that match, I didn't even need it to be a good match. The only thing that I needed to come out of that match was for Nyla Rose not to be the one who ends the streak. So for Jade Cargill to win there, that's good for me. I didn't understand coming out in the lowrider. I understand Vicky Guerrero is Eddie Guerrero's wife. Like I get that, but what does that have to do with Nyla Rose? What does Eddie Guerrero's lowrider have to do with Nyla Rose?
Since Nyla Rose joined up with Vicky Guerrero, they've kind of had this like lie, cheat, steal kind of gimmick going on.
She stole the title.
She stole the title. She's with Vicky. Vicky taught her how to have that little bit of like do anything to win gimmick. So I think that it's just like the nod to Eddie. Everything's a nod to Eddie in wrestling. It seems
right. Maybe that's
a lot of nods to Eddie.
Maybe that's part of what bothers me is not everything needs to be an ode to Eddie Vedder in every It's a Eddie Guerrero in every promotion. I think that's part of what it is because. I mean, every time I got Dominic and Rey Mysterio on my screen, we're doing tributes to Eddie Guerrero. And look, Eddie Guerrero's amazing, all right? But, not every week do we need to do tributes to Eddie Guerrero.
It was the same thing with Sasha. Every match she ever had, if you go, she's always doing some kind of nod to Eddie Guerrero. Like, we get it. He's your favorite.
Right?
But
yeah.
Like, every time, it's, I know. There's a lot of nods to Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's what it was. My whole takeaway from this match. Well, my 2 takeaways were the outfit. Big fan of the outfit.
Yeah.
Jade Cargill's outfit. Stunning.
She's amazing. I love her.
And just that again, I think we know Britt is the top woman in that company. She's the best. Jade is a close second, and they are not giving her. They're just not doing anything for her. They're not making that title seem super important. They definitely don't play up the streak nearly enough. Like, why have a streak if you're not gonna like pump it up?
Is there someone in the promotion right now who you can look at and say that's the girl who's going to end the streak?
No. Well, no. Uh, I mean, no, I right at the moment, no. Britt at some point, like I don't know what
Well,
they're
I
going to do
hope.
with her. I
I
guess
look. I'm a big fan of Britt Baker, but I hope not. Like the whole point in this streak has to be you're giving that moniker to someone who can use that forever. Like Brock Lesnar, we could argue Brock Lesnar needed it, but Brock Lesnar forever is the guy that broke the Undertaker streak. So whoever they do this with,
yeah, but
like
like
you're gonna be able to say
didn't
forever.
it? Yeah, but we've talked a little bit about how AEW is showing some signs of being WCW ish. And WCW did a pretty poor job of breaking Goldberg's streak. So hopefully, I mean, hopefully there's a plan, but you
I
just
would
don't
tell
know. I
you,
don't know how they're going to book it.
I would tell you if she didn't win last night, and I thought she would win, and she did. If Jamie Hayter did not win last night, I would have said Jamie Hayter can be the one to break Jade Cargill's streak. But she just won the title last
Yeah,
night,
but
so
I
you
don't
don't have
know
to.
because I don't. Yeah, I don't know because I just don't think there's a lot of strength in the women's division in AEW in general. I mean, there's only a handful of women who are even pushed the right way, seemingly in that company, and
Well,
you
I
don't want
sure
to
as
see any of them
shit hope
beat
it's not
Jade
going to
right
be.
now.
I sure as shit hope it's not going to be Soraya that breaks Jade Cargill's streak. I can tell you that. What do you make of Soraya and Britt
No.
Baker there? I wanted Britt Baker to win. We both knew she wasn't going to win. It was going to be Soraya. I dug how you had Zach Zodiac sitting in the front row. I like that kind of stuff. I like that her brother was there supporting her. You could tell it meant a lot to him. He was into it. So I dug that. They gave you a little bit of background, even if you didn't see the movie. And you can see, obviously, it's a big deal for Soraya when she comes down to the ring. I thought the match was just okay. We knew
Yep.
Soraya was
No, it
going to win.
wasn't. I actually don't think it. I didn't think the match was particularly good, and I think Soraya even said after in the post scrum, like Britt carried me. She like alluded to that. Like she looked gassed like 2 minutes into the match, and
Yeah, how
that
could
hurt
she
her.
not?
And I get it. She's been gone for 5 years. She hasn't wrestled in 5 years, so that's fair. But yeah, the match wasn't great.
It's okay.
It was what it was. I guess they had to do it because they built it. I don't think we expected much from this match. Did we really?
Well, I think the thing that I was surprised about going into this match, it was fairly clear that Britt Baker was doing babyface promos. She was 100% working as a heel in the match. And I was surprised about that. I thought she was I thought they were heading in a direction where she's going to be a babyface. They're clearly not.
Yeah, but that also kind of indicates to me that they want Paige to be like one of their top baby faces, and they're going to try to force it to get us there. I don't know if we'll get there. I just don't. She's going to have to get past this whole "I've been gone for 5 years and I'm nervous on the microphone." Actually I don't even remember back when she was active. Was she ever good on the mic? Like I don't really. I mean, she was okay.
Yeah, not at first, but she was fine. She was fine. Obviously
Yeah,
not at first, but she was fine.
yeah. I guess I'm trying to remember if Paige was as big a deal as we're remembering. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't do it for me now. I don't know.
Let's talk about the Acclaimed and Swerve and Keith Lee. They break up, obviously. Swerve likes, and they made a note of this in the promo leading up to the match. Swerve's all about doing anything to win. Keith Lee's the wrestler. Swerve's the guy who's sneaky, and he's going to do whatever it takes. And that played a big role in the middle of the match. Keith Lee was not having it. Swerve smacks him. Keith Lee leaves and watches the rest of the match on the runway. And I was actually thinking in that moment because Swerve was trying to hold them off, the two of them, for a couple minutes. And I was thinking, hold up a second. What would happen if Swerve won and then he's got to come back to Keith Lee? Hey, man, we're the tag champs now. You're not going anywhere. Like, I was wondering if that was a direction they were about to go in, but the Acclaimed ended.
That would have been interesting, actually. That actually would have been interesting. I didn't even think about that. Or could he just go like hold the titles on his own and just pick partners? Like to figure out who he wants to be.
I thought it was just gonna be kind of like, yo, I own you, man. We got these titles. We're a team. You're not going anywhere. But the Acclaimed win. The Acclaimed are a lot of fun. I don't think match is fun. Yeah. The Acclaimed are fun. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, dude, Swerve's finisher, that kick that he does is awesome.
Yeah.
I know he's always done it. That like jumping side kick, whatever it is it's fucking cool. Swerve's really good. He's a great heel too. The interesting thing, and AEW has a tendency to do this from time to time too, where it doesn't seem like there's a lot of continuity in the show, because the cheat to win at all costs and the partner not wanting to cheat thing is also what Death Triangle's been doing. And they're also in a tag situation. I feel like that's not, you wouldn't book on top of each other like that. If there was continuity in the show, it seems like the same gimmick happened twice.
I've heard that complaint before, that you see the same thing multiple times in the show, and that we're clearly not talking to each other backstage.
Yeah, that's my only
I've heard that complaint
before. I guess if you call it, yeah, I guess if you call it an issue, maybe but it's not a huge issue, but it's just interesting that I've seen it a few times. I will, by the way, I know yesterday I was kind of like harping on how AEW constantly shoves these older guys down our throats, and they did it again last night. But man, Billy Gunn is the best. He is so over, and everything he's been doing with the Acclaimed is awesome. And let's just keep that thing rolling, because I love the scissor me daddy ass. All right. That's all I mean, that's when he comes out, the pop he gets right now is incredible.
I thought it was a great start to the show. I liked the steel cage, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus starting off the show. You got the blood right from the get-go. What'd you make of them opening up the show? It's a 6 spot off the top of the cage from Jungle Boy with the elbow. I also like how AEW, I hate when WWE does the steel cage matches, because I don't like the exiting the cage. I especially don't like exiting the cage by the door. With AEW, it's we're in a cage match, but it's still going to end in the ring. So I dig that AEW does that. Great spot by Jungle Boy with the elbow off the top of the cage.
The spot was very cool, but I think he almost killed himself. Like he almost missed. And if you looked, we actually rewound it. If you look at him when he's hugging his family, his ribs might be broken. Like he had a giant red gash on his ribs where he hit the table when he did the elbow.
Yeah, he didn't jump.
It looked cool. It looked cool, but man, it looked like he could have been hurt really bad. Those spots still scare me. I don't care what you think about professional wrestling. Those spots are dangerous. And it just takes one little mess up to you're done. And it almost happened, but it turned out okay. I love the camera work leaves a lot to be desired in AEW, but I do like the shots of him standing on top of the cage when he was up there for the move, and at the end where he's celebrating. I thought that looked really cool. I think those two, I love Luchasaurus. I've loved him from day one in AEW. I think he's awesome. I think it seemingly accepts the idea that he'll never be a top guy in a company because he wears a dinosaur mask.
Yep.
But he's a huge, he can go in the ring. He's really talented. And as a heel, he's awesome. I don't know what's going on with all that physio tape on his back. He needs to get that fixed, I guess. Cause he's got that guy. He's an unbeatable dinosaur with a ton of physio tape on, but, he's cool. And it sounds like, from what, Jack Perry was saying after the show, he's done with those guys for now, but when Christian's arm's better, he wants Christian again. So I'm good with that.
I will admit to you, so you can give me a quick synopsis. I did not see any of Darby Allin and Sting against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, because I did not think it was going to be anything, and I decided to go take a shower.
You're going to have a 7-hour show. You're going to have a 7-hour show. You're going to have a tag team match that's not FTR, and you're going to put this shit on the card?
You're right.
I mean, what an awful,
You're You're right.
Says Sting's 63. Sting is 63 years old. Why is Sting wrestling? Sting is 63 years old. Why is he wrestling in jeans and a sweatshirt?
Did he do? Was there a crazy Sting spot? I mean, that's his thing.
Yeah,
that's his gimmick
he did.
Now.
I don't remember what it was, but he jumped off of something, and it was just like,
I think he jumped off the rail onto Jay Lethal. Like
that's what it was in the crowd. Yeah,
that's his thing now.
Now I will say this: something great did come out of this. Shout out to my brother again, Satnam Singh, aka Greater Khali. Okay. That guy is actually pretty good.
Yeah, he doesn't look awkward when he walks around. Like usually guys that are that big are a little awkward looking. He doesn't look awkward.
Dude, he had a spot where he just took Darby Allin like a child and just tossed him onto the ramp. He's pretty cool. I like Satnam Singh.
Is he ever going to fight?
I don't know what their plan is there, but this was the perfect example in AEW of why in 2022 are Jeff Jarrett and Sting? Why do I need to see this? Like, even Jay Lethal, who I actually think Jay Lethal is great, and he's had some classic moments in wrestling. He's old, like for wrestling like he's kind of old. Mm-hmm. And this, like, you put older guys with younger guys to elevate them. Does Sting elevate Darby Allin?
I think that's my big problem with that right now is I think Darby's being held back. Like, I'd like to see Darby do one-on-one matches and just be the focus be on him. I think he's being held back.
Early days of AEW, it seemed like
Darby was like he was a star, right? Like, I wasn't watching early days of AEW, but I knew who Darby Allin was because everyone was talking about him.
But you know why that was? Because he was in programs with guys like Cody and Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara, and it was like these incredible one-on-one matches where it's like Darby will do anything.
I think he's being held back. Yeah,
but this whole Sting thing, it's not great. The match was a mess. It was just from the start. Jeff Jarrett. Did you know Jeff Jarrett's like the director of business development for AEW?
Yeah. By the way, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett looked great. By the way, looked really.
He did. He looks good for 55.
Looks great.
But I don't need him wrestling. I don't even need him on my screen. Like Sanjay Dutt is a great mouthpiece. Jay Lethal's a great mouthpiece. They need Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, but neither of them say slap nuts. Come on.
That's true.
Neither of them say slap nuts.